Welcome to the Explainer. If you've ever spent any time on a Windows PC, you've probably seen that old command prompt, right? That simple black box. Well, guess what? That whole era is pretty much over. Today, we're going to dive into what replaced it, the super powerful, super modern Windows terminal.
All right, so here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll touch on the old command line, to really get why we needed something new. Then we'll get into how the modern terminal was born, look at all the cool productivity features and ways you can make it your own, and we'll even talk about a special font made just for it. And finally, we'll see how this thing became the new standard for Windows.
Okay, so first things first. To really appreciate what a huge leap forward this is, we got to take a step back in time. For decades, right, the Windows command line was just the Windows console. And look, it worked, but it felt totally stuck in the past, especially when you looked at what other operating systems were doing. So yeah, an upgrade wasn't just a nice to have, it was absolutely essential.
And wow, the difference is just night and day. Seriously. Over on the left, that's the old world. One window, one command line, that's it. It had super basic text rendering. Forget about modern fonts, forget about emojis. But then you look to the right, and that's where we are now. We're talking multiple tabs, split panes so you can multitask, and this incredibly powerful hardware-accelerated engine that just renders everything beautifully.
So the big question is, how did we get here? Well, this wasn't your typical behind-closed-doors Microsoft project. No way. They built this whole new command line experience completely from scratch. And the really crucial part? They did it all out in the open. It was open source, embracing feedback from the community right from the very beginning. And let me tell you, the development pace was wild. It was first announced at Microsoft's Build conference in May 2019. And then, just 2 months later, boom, the first public preview was already out. A year after that, in May 2020, we had the stable 1.0 release. And by 2022, it wasn't just an app anymore. It became the default on Windows 11. Think about that. That is an incredibly fast journey from an idea to being a core part of the OS.
All right, now let's get to the really good stuff. Let's talk about the features that make this thing an absolute productivity powerhouse. Because this is where Windows Terminal stops being just a replacement and starts being like a central command center for developers and power users.
Okay, the biggest game changer, hands down, is that it puts everything in one place. You can have the classic command prompt, the much more powerful PowerShell, and even the Windows subsystem for Linux, WSL, all running in different tabs in the same window. You can even connect right to Azure Cloud Shell or set up your own SSH connections. It brings everything together, finally.
But it's not just about tabs. It's all the little workflow power-ups that really speed you up. You can split your window into different panes, right? So you can watch multiple things happening at once. It's got a command palette. If you've ever used a code editor like VS Code, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It gives you instant access to all the commands. Throw in customizable key bindings, a proper search, and mouse support, and suddenly, you're working so much faster and more efficiently.
So, okay, it's powerful, but it's not just about raw power. Windows Terminal also brought this massive upgrade in style. The command line didn't have to be that boring, stark black and white screen anymore. Finally, you can make it look and feel exactly the way you wanted.
You can totally change the look and feel. We're talking themes, you can throw in background images, you can set custom colors for your tabs, you can even make the window transparent. And under the hood, it's got all the good stuff. Full 24-bit color, hardware acceleration so the text is super smooth, and maybe most importantly, full support for UTF-8, which means it can display everything from complex characters to, yes, finally, emojis in your command line.
And here's something that really shows how dedicated they were to the developer experience. Microsoft didn't just build the app and call it a day. Oh no. They actually went and designed a brand new font just for this new command line world. And that font is Cascadia Code. It's a monospaced font, which is just a fancy way of saying every single character takes up the exact same amount of space, which is crucial for keeping your code lined up perfectly. But more than that, it was designed from the ground up to be super readable. Making sure similar characters look different to help cut down on eye strain when you're staring at the screen for hours.
But one of its absolute killer features is something called programming ligatures. Now, what is that? Well, watch what happens. When you type, say, a dash and then a greater than sign, they automatically combine into this one clean arrow symbol. Or if you type two equal signs, they merge into a single longer symbol.
It sounds like a small thing, but it's this subtle, powerful feature that makes your code look so much cleaner and easier to read.
So, when you add it all up, all these powerful features, all these thoughtful design choices, it becomes pretty clear this wasn't just meant to be some niche app for a few people. All of this was paving the way for Windows Terminal to become a central piece of the Windows operating system. And that brings us to the final huge step in its journey. Starting with Windows 11 version 22H2, Windows Terminal became the default. What that means is now anytime you launch any command line app, it automatically opens up inside the new terminal. It wasn't an optional download you had to go find anymore. It became the way to use the command line for everybody on Windows 11. And this shift has a really cool side effect. It means that even older legacy command line apps, they get to piggyback on Terminal's modern rendering engine. They get all the benefits, better performance, way better font rendering, full character support. Basically, they get a free upgrade just by launching inside the new terminal. So when you look at the whole picture, it's so clear that Windows Terminal isn't just a simple update. It's a total reimagination of what the command line can be. It's powerful, it's efficient, and you know what? It's actually kind of beautiful. Which brings me to a final question for you. With all these new tools in your arsenal, we're talking tabs, split panes, custom themes, what's the one feature you think would totally change the game for your own workflow?